Iron Bond Chapter 2. The first thing the alien observers noticed was not humanity's weapons, it was their silence. Across the observation deck of the neutral relay station, layered sensors tracked every micro-movement of the human delegation. Heart rate steady, breathing controlled, no unnecessary gestures. No signs of fear, no signs of submission, just stillness. The kind that precedes impact. Ambassador Hala stood at the center of the group, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the far wall where the representatives of the coalition would soon appear. He had been a soldier once. Infantry, then command, then politics, which in many ways was more exhausting than war. But standing here now, he felt the old instincts return. Measure the room, count exits, identify threats. Trust the people beside you. Behind him stood Captain Reyes, armor polished but unadorned, helmet tucked beneath one arm. To his left, Commander Imani Okoye, naval strategist, her expression unreadable. To his right, Dr. Lin Jiao, civilian advisor, fingers still faintly stained from years of engineering work. Different paths. Different lives. Bound by one thing, they were human. The doors opened without ceremony. The coalition delegates entered in a staggered formation, each species maintaining its own preferred spacing, posture, and visual dominance. Tall crystalline forms refracted the station lights into sharp angles. Insectoid delegates clicked softly among themselves. The avian members perched on elevated platforms, wings partially unfurled to appear larger, a deliberate display. Power translated into posture. Ambassador Hale did not move. The silence stretched. It was broken by a voice transmitted through layered translators, modulated to offend no one and respect no one either. Human delegation, the speaker said. You are present regarding the incident at Perseus Gate. Hale nodded once. We are. A ripple passed through the coalition ranks. The brevity was unexpected. Humans were supposed to explain themselves, apologize, justify. The coalition's records were full of it. Younger species always did. The crystalline delegate shifted. You are aware that your actions resulted in the destruction of coalition assets. Yes, Hale replied. And the survival of 112,000 civilian lives. Another pause. The insectoid representative leaned forward. Those civilians were not registered coalition dependents. They were alive, Hale said. That was sufficient. Captain Reyes felt something tighten in his chest. This was the moment, the pivot point. He had stood on battlefields where the air itself screamed. He had watched friends die. None of that carried the same weight as this room. Because this wasn't about a single fight, it was about how humanity would be defined. The avian delegate spoke next. Your species violated engagement protocols. You deployed mass driver fire inside a protected transit corridor. Yes, Commander Okoye said calmly. We did. Such action risks destabilizing interstellar infrastructure. Correct, Okoye replied. Which is why we calculated the impact vectors, compensated for gravitic shear, and accepted full responsibility for the structural damage. The coalition delegates exchanged data flashes. Humans were not denying the charges. They were not pleading necessity. They were owning the decision. That was inconvenient. Dr. Zhao stepped forward slightly. May I clarify something? The crystalline form tilted, light fracturing along its surface. Proceed. You refer to the Perseus Gate as coalition infrastructure, Zhao said. But the evacuation ships trapped beyond it were civilian-flagged. Multi-species transports. Yes. Then by your own charter, Zhao continued. The gate was no longer a purely strategic asset. It was a humanitarian choke point. The insectoid mandibles twitched. Your interpretation is aggressive. It is literal, Zhao replied. We read your charters very carefully. Silence returned, heavier now. Captain Reyes remembered the hours leading up to Perseus Gate, the alarms, the cascading failures, the moment when command asked for volunteers to hold the line while the civilians evacuated. He remembered standing with soldiers from half a dozen human nations, no flags, no speeches, just nods, iron between them. Iron bond. The avian delegate broke the silence. Your species continues to behave as if rules are secondary to outcomes. Hale finally shifted his stance, turning fully toward them. No, he said. We behave as if lives are not negotiable. The translator hesitated for a fraction of a second, recalibrating. Such thinking leads to escalation, the crystalline delegate warned. Yes, Hale said quietly. It does. Commander Okoye folded her hands behind her back. And escalation is something we understand very well. Data streams flared across coalition interfaces. Tactical projections. Historical models. Humans had a reputation now, not for brutality, for endurance. For stubborn refusal to accept extinction as a valid outcome. The insectoid representative clicked sharply. Your fleets are limited. Your industrial output is insufficient to challenge the coalition. Captain Reyes spoke before Hale could stop him. We are not here to challenge you. He met their collective gaze, voice steady. We are here to inform you. The avian delegate leaned forward. Inform us of what? Reyes inhaled slowly. That when civilians are threatened, when evacuation corridors collapse, when someone has to stay behind so others can live, humans will not calculate political cost. Dr. Zhao continued seamlessly. We will calculate time, distance, structural limits, probability of survival, Commander Okoye added. And then we will act. The crystalline delegate's light pulsed brighter. Even if it leads to war? Hale did not hesitate. Especially then. The word hung in the air heavier than any weapon. The coalition had encountered aggressive species before. Predatory species, expansionist species. They had protocols for all of them. But this was different. Humans were not expanding. They were not conquering. They were anchoring themselves in moral absolutes that made negotiation difficult. The insectoid representative finally spoke. Your doctrine is inefficient. Yes, Xiao agreed. It is. And unsustainable, Hale nodded. Probably. Then why persist? Hale's eyes hardened, memories flickering behind them. Earth, cities rebuilt from ash. Oceans crossed by desperate migrants. Generations raised under the shadow of extinction events humanity had barely survived. Because, he said, we already tried the alternative. Captain Reyes felt the truth of it settle into his bones. Humanity had tried isolation, appeasement, indifference. None of it had saved them when it mattered. What had saved them was standing together when the cost was unbearable. Iron Bond was not a slogan, it was a survival mechanism. The avian delegate withdrew its wings slightly. What you propose destabilizes established balance. Yes, Okoye said again. Balance that assumes some lives are acceptable losses. The crystalline delegate dimmed, considering. If we accept your position, precedent is established. That is the point, Hale replied. The room fell silent once more. Then, unexpectedly, a new voice entered the exchange. Lower frequency, older, weighted with authority. Human delegation. All attention shifted to a figure that had remained in the shadows until now. A massive, slow-moving entity, its form layered with centuries of adaptive evolution. An elder arbiter. Rarely present, only summoned when outcomes reshaped history. You have demonstrated resolve, the arbiter said. But resolve alone does not preserve civilizations. No, Hale agreed. It preserves people. The arbiter studied him. Your species binds itself through what you call bonds. Yes. Explain. Hale glanced briefly at Reyes, then back to the arbiter. When humans commit to each other, we do so knowing the cost. We do not promise survival. We promise effort, Reyes added quietly. We promise not to leave. The arbiter absorbed this in silence. Such bonds create vulnerability, it said. They create trust, Zhao replied. An obligation, yes, Okoye said. Which we accept. The arbiter turned its attention to the coalition delegates. You fear what cannot be predicted. That is correct, the crystalline delegate replied. The arbiter's gaze returned to the humans. And you embrace it? Hale nodded. Because unpredictability is where hope survives. A long pause followed. Systems hummed. Translators whispered probabilities. Very well, the arbiter said at last. The coalition will issue a formal censure. Reparations will be negotiated. However, every human stiffened slightly. The actions at Perseus Gate will not be classified as hostile aggression. Captain Reyes exhaled slowly. The arbiter continued. Your doctrine will be observed. Hale inclined his head. That is all we ask. As the coalition delegates withdrew, the humans remained still, disciplined to the end. Only when the doors closed did the tension finally release. Reyes turned to Hale. That could have gone worse. Yes, Hale said. It still might. Commander Okoye allowed herself a thin smile. But they heard us. Dr. Zhao looked at her hands, flexing them slowly. They will test us, Hale nodded. Of course they will. Reyes looked back at the closed doors, thinking of Perseus Gate. Of the people who had lived because humans had stayed. Let them, he said, because Iron Bond was not forged in meetings or treaties. It was forged when someone stayed behind. And humanity had already proven they would. The human delegation left the relay station without ceremony. No victory statements, no dramatic gestures. Just a quiet departure that unsettled the coalition more than any threat ever could. From the moment the airlock sealed behind them, the observers began filing internal assessments. Most of them used the same word: unpredictable. On board the diplomatic cruiser, the silence lingered. The ship moved on autopilot, engines humming softly as it cleared coalition-controlled space. Only when the stars shifted and the pressure of observation finally lifted did Ambassador Hale allow himself to sit. Captain Reyes remained standing. "You did the right thing," Reyes said. Hale exhaled slowly. "There is no such thing as the right thing. Only the thing you can live with afterward." Commander Okoye folded her arms. "They'll push back. Sanctions. Restricted corridors. Maybe proxy conflicts." "Yes," Hale replied. "And none of it will change what happens the next time civilians are trapped behind a gate." Dr. Zhao leaned against the bulkhead. "They're trying to understand us as a variable. That will take time." Reyes looked at the navigation display, watching the familiar star patterns emerge. Time isn't something people have when evacuation windows collapse. The ship fell quiet again, each of them replaying Perseus Gate in their own way. Different angles, different losses. The same conclusion. Humanity had crossed a line, not a political one, a philosophical one. They were no longer content to exist inside someone else's definition of acceptable loss. Several systems away, far beyond the coalition's direct reach, the aftermath of Perseus Gate continued to unfold. Rescue flotillas arrived late but thorough, recovering debris, logging wreckage, confirming the impossible. The mass driver barrage had done exactly what the human engineers promised. The gate had collapsed outward, not inward. The evacuation ships had escaped with minimal damage. The corridor had died, but the people had lived. Among the survivors was a child named Alara. She didn't know the word Perseus. She didn't know about coalition charters or diplomatic risk. She knew only that when the alarms screamed and gravity twisted sideways, someone had stayed behind to hold the line. She knew that when her transport finally broke free, the stars looked brighter than they ever had. That memory would stay with her long after the reports were archived. Back on Earth, the public response was divided, as it always was. Analysts argued. Politicians debated. Economists warned of consequences. But in refugee centers, in hospitals, in reconstructed habitats, there was a quieter reaction: relief. People who had expected to die had lived. And they knew who had made that decision. Military command did not celebrate. They prepared. Fleet deployments shifted subtly. Not aggressive. Defensive. Corridors near human-controlled space were reinforced. Evacuation drills updated. Doctrine revised. Iron Bond was no longer an internal philosophy. It was becoming operational reality. At Fleet Command, Admiral Serrano watched the data feed scroll past. She had been young once when humanity first left its cradle, optimistic enough to believe cooperation alone would be enough. Perseus Gate had disabused her of that notion. "Doctrine integration status," she said. An aide responded immediately. 70% of fleet units updated. Training simulations ongoing. Civilian coordination protocols revised. And coalition reaction? Mixed. No formal military escalation. Increased surveillance. Serrano nodded. Good, let them watch. Because watching did not prepare you for a species that treated sacrifice as a shared burden instead of a delegated one. On the edge of explored space, a small patrol vessel drifted in the shadow of a dying star. Its crew was human, but its passengers were not. Representatives from half a dozen minor species, refugees from conflicts the coalition had deemed inconvenient. They watched the humans with curiosity. One of them finally asked the question that had been circulating quietly since Perseus Gate. Why did you do it? The human pilot didn't answer immediately. She adjusted course, compensating for solar drift. Do what? Destroy the gate, the alien replied. You lost ships, lives. The pilot glanced back, eyes steady. Yes, that makes no sense. She smiled faintly. It makes perfect sense to us. The alien hesitated. Explain. She considered how to phrase it. If we had waited for permission, you would be dead. Silence followed. Does that not trouble you? The alien asked. The pilot shook her head. What troubles me is imagining a universe where we let that happen. Word spread quickly among the smaller species. Humans were dangerous, yes, but in a very specific way. They were dangerous to systems that relied on indifference. Dangerous to bureaucratic inertia. Dangerous to anyone who assumed survival could be calculated without empathy. On a quiet orbital station, far from any headlines, Captain Reyes stood alone, looking out at the stars. He had taken leave, officially. Unofficially, he was thinking. He thought about the soldiers who had stayed behind at Perseus Gate, about the moment when retreat orders came too late, about the choice they had made without hesitation. Iron Bond. A presence joined him. You're not sleeping, Commander Okoye observed. Reyes shrugged. I'll sleep later. She leaned against the viewport. You're wondering what comes next? Yes. She followed his gaze. So am I. Do you think we pushed too hard? He asked. Okoye was silent for a moment. No. I think we pushed exactly as hard as reality required. And if it leads to conflict? It will, she said calmly. Eventually, Reyes clenched his jaw. Then why do I feel like we're still unprepared? Because preparation implies control, she replied. And this was never about control. It was about commitment. Elsewhere, deep within coalition space, the Elder Arbiter reviewed projections. Humanity's curve was steep. Not in numbers. In resolve. The models struggled to account for it. This species did not optimize for survival alone. They optimized for meaning. That made them volatile. That made them necessary. The Arbiter issued a quiet directive. Increased observation. Restricted engagement. Learn before judging. Because civilizations that bound themselves so tightly either burned out quickly or reshaped the galaxy. Weeks passed. Another crisis emerged. Different system, different species. Same pattern. Infrastructure failure. Evacuation bottleneck. Coalition committees convened. This time, a human task force was already en route before authorization requests finished routing. By the time coalition fleets arrived, the evacuation was complete. The humans left without waiting for commendation. Reports followed. Frustrated. Conflicted. Uneasy. A phrase began appearing in unofficial coalition communications. If humans are present, civilians survive. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough to be noticed. On Earth, children in rebuilt districts played games where one side always stayed behind so the others could escape. They didn't call it strategy. They called it being human. Captain Reyes received a message late one night. A short clip. A transport cabin. Refugees cheering quietly as a damaged gate collapsed behind them, sealing off pursuit. No explosions. No speeches, just relief. He forwarded it to Hale. The reply came minutes later. We chose the path. Now we walk it. Reyes leaned back, closing his eyes. Iron Bond was not forged once. It was forged again every time someone chose others over themselves. And humanity was choosing, again and again. And again